Welcome back to the Explainer, everyone. Grab your notebooks, because today we're not just looking at some dusty historical event. We are actually going to examine the ultimate case study on the unyielding and, honestly, kind of defiant power of human empathy. We're traveling back to the freezing winter of 1914, right smack in the middle of World War I. But instead of studying military strategies or global politics today, let's put human psychology under the microscope together. We're going to collaboratively explore one miraculous night where humanity completely hijacked a world war. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our syllabus for today's lecture. We're going to systematically break down the mechanics of empathy through 5 key stages: the darkness of the trenches, the voice of humanity, enemy or human, the fear of empathy, and finally, an immortal lesson. Let's get started. Section 1, the darkness of the trenches, the grim reality. Now, to really wrap our heads around why this case study of empathy is just so mind-blowing, we first have to understand the absolutely grim status quo of the environment these guys were in. Imagine the sheer bleakness of this daily reality. Across the battlefields of Europe, there was literally only an atmosphere of bullets, bombs, and constant death. Soldiers were living, sleeping, and just barely surviving in these muddy, disease-ridden trenches. Every single day, their only interaction with the people across from them was terrifying violence. Facing the enemy meant facing your own end. This was a dark, unforgiving canvas. There was zero room for compassion, right? Your brain is wired for exactly one thing in this environment, and that is pure survival. Which brings us to Section 2, the voice of humanity. An unexpected shift. This sequence of events here brilliantly illustrates how quickly a shared cultural touchpoint can completely dismantle a global war, even if it's just temporarily. We go straight from point 1, the relentless, deafening daily gunfire of the pre-Christmas period, directly into a freezing December night where everything flips. What happens next defies literally all military logic. The fighting on several fronts actually started to slow down. The catalyst? The sound of Christmas carols piercing through the cold, dark night. But here's the incredible part. The songs weren't just coming from one side. The voices were echoing from the enemy trenches. I mean, imagine the sheer disbelief of these soldiers. You're sitting in the freezing mud, waiting for a bomb to drop, and instead you hear a familiar holiday song. At first, they probably couldn't even believe it. But then, slowly, tentatively, soldiers on the opposite sides began answering back with their own songs. The sound of bombs was entirely replaced by the sound of music. Section 3, enemy or human. A radical connection. Let's break down the practical, everyday components of empathy here. Because after the singing, soldiers actually stepped out of their trenches. The very people they had been shooting at just hours before, they were now meeting face to face, completely without fear, right in the middle of no man's land. They shook hands. They shared their meager rations, passing around cigarettes and food. They sat in the dirt and just talked to each other. In this unbelievable display of shared humanity, they even worked together to respectfully bury their dead comrades who had fallen between the lines. And perhaps the most emotional and famous image of all, they found an open space and played a game of football together. For a few hours, humanity completely and utterly triumphed over war. So the absolutely crucial point is this. The Christmas Truce was not some official agreement. No politicians signed a document in a warm office. No generals ordered a ceasefire. This was a completely spontaneous, grassroots explosion of human connection. It was driven entirely by ordinary soldiers who made a collective, unspoken decision to choose empathy over their orders. Section 4, the fear of empathy. Top brass reaction. Notice the stark psychological contrast going on here. On one side, we have the ordinary soldiers who looked across the field, saw other human beings, and naturally desired peace and connection. On the other side, we have the high-ranking military commanders. And let me tell you, they didn't see a beautiful moment of peace. They saw a massive, terrifying threat. The upper echelon of the military completely disapproved of this grassroots initiative. Why? Because they were terrified that sympathy would weaken the war effort. Let's just pause and really let this heavy concept sink in for a second. The threat of sympathy. The commanders realized something fundamental about human psychology. You simply cannot effectively kill someone once you truly recognize their humanity. Seeing the enemy as a human being with a family, a favorite song, and a love for football, that completely destroys the psychological foundation required to wage a war. Empathy was a direct threat to the mechanics of their conflict. Because of this exact fear, the commanders swiftly intervened, forcing the unofficial truce to end immediately. In the following days, the gunfire returned and the brutal war resumed, dragging on for several more tragic years. Section 5. An immortal lesson. Humanity prevails. They saw humans in each other. not enemies. This isn't just a fascinating war story. It is a profound testament to the resilience of our nature. This acts as a powerful reminder that even in the absolute darkest, muddiest, most violent trenches of a world war, humanity cannot be entirely destroyed. For just a few miraculous hours, ordinary men put down their rifles, completely ignored the uniforms, and chose to only see the people wearing them.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. If a spontaneous spark of empathy, literally just a simple shared song, could actually pause a world war, what could that exact same empathy do in our everyday lives, in our own conflicts? Thank you so much for attending today's session of The Explainer. I challenge you to take this lesson of humanity forward with you today. Class dismissed.